Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm here. Today I am back to cover a budget deck profile this time. It's for the Blitz deck, the CEO deck, the Welstra deck, whatever you like to call it, for Brandt Gate in Overdress Set 7. Now, the reason why I'm doing this in a budget format is really quite simple. If you check out Yurite or you check out Big Web or literally just any other price website right now for Set 7 in Japan, you notice that it's actually really cheap to build this deck. Like all the triple rares and double rares have all fallen to really affordable groups of about 200 to 300 yen each, with the double rares all being about 150 yen. So it's really affordable to build the deck in its entirety, and I decided instead, why not just build the deck as a budget deck in terms of let's build everything at its cheapest point and let's see whether it's still operational. And the answer is yes, it's actually still really operational, and it's really quite entertaining to see. So today we're going to actually go through this Blitz CEO deck. Honestly, if you want to talk about upgrades in terms of moving on to playing this competitively, I would say it's literally just changing your perfect guards and your triggers. Frankly, the main deck options, I would say, barely change. You don't really need Hofolio, you don't really need Perfect, you don't really need the play force charts even. So really, I feel that in terms of the high res, you don't actually need that much. May want to consider Bomber Mine, but frankly, I'm against that, and I think most Brandt Gate players are against that for the Blitz deck. But okay, let's just get right to it. For right line, we play Blitz Mechanic Walton, we play Blitz Programmer Straza, then we play Blitz Engineer. This is I need to actually take a look at his name. And then lastly is of course Welstra. So this is the right line for the Blitz CEO deck. So Walton is just your basic wait zero. I remember his name's Uber. Yeah, I can see it now. His name's Uber. Then this is Straza. Straza, his skill is when he's ruled upon by grade 2, you can search your deck for a grade 1 product card or from your hand and place it in the order zone. If you place it from your hand, you draw a card. Now, the gimmick is that you are supposed to be playing around these things called products, and your products can basically, you scrap one out and then you replace them for a stronger product, and you scrap it out for another product. As you can tell, it's kind of in ascending order of grades 1, 2, and 3. So as your game progresses, you are actually trying to pursue some technological advancement to move up to stronger and better weapons in the name of your company, to develop even better weapons. Of course, there's definitely potential for stronger weapons to be made in the future, or weapons that are just generally better for the Blitz deck. But for now, this is what we have. So I will be covering the weapons in just a bit. But yeah, and next up we have this is Uber. Uber has a very simple skill. If you Soul Blast 1 while he's on the Vanguard Circle, you simply just operate the order. You operate the product. So what does it mean to operate? Is that you'll be triggering an actual skill. So you don't actually get to use any skills when you play these orders, when you install them into your order zone, which is very interesting because Prison, it sits there as a stagnant zone, and then you just use your skills to throw the stuff in there. Prison, you store the balls there, and then you throw the balls at the opponent's rear guards. For the Worlds, it changes the scenario in terms of how dark the scenario is, and the darker it is, the more benefits you gain. Whereas for the Blitz deck, it's a lot different in the sense that these guys just sit there, the orders don't do anything, and you guys are, as the colleagues and the members of the company, you're meant to actually operate these weapons and upgrade them. So at grade 2, you generally will be operating Incandescent Flame Cannon up Hassan. At least for now, maybe in the future that's not the case. But anyways, his last skill is that when he's ruled upon by Welstra, you actually get to destroy the grade 1 or the current weapon in your product zone. So you destroy it, you move it from the order zone to the drop zone, and then you get to actually install a weapon of higher grade to the order zone from your hand or deck. And just as Straza also did the same, if you install from your hand, you get to draw a card. So generally speaking, having the products either in your hand or in the deck is a good thing. You generally just don't want them to damage or drop zone, so you do want to make sure that when you build this deck, you want to make sure that you have enough in your deck to effectively operate them, or you can just draw into them. And I will actually be going through the ratios for the products later so that you can understand why we play them at a certain ratio. It's really because of this. knowing where you can actually operate the stuff from. The easiest card in this right deck is straight Welstra. Welstra has two skills, and that is that when a product is being operated, he gains 5,000 power, which is nice. It's completely free. There's no cost whatsoever. He just sits there and gains the free 5. And you can operate a weapon more than once per turn. Currently, it's about twice per turn, but who knows? And of course, his second skill is when he attacks, he gets to operate in order. So, you generally notice that on grade 2, you will get to operate in order by the effect of Uber. On grade 3, with Welstra, every time Welstra declares an attack, he will automatically trigger a weapon himself. Of course, there are other ways to trigger an order weapon. There's such cards like Hofolio, who's not in this deck. I deem him not necessary at the cost point for both in terms of card price as well as cost price for the ability. So he's not in this deck, but for our deck, we actually play Iskra. Iskra is actually our main way to operate, and she's actually really good at what she does for mechanics. So we'll get to her in just a bit, but let's actually move on first. We're going to move into the products. Our products, we play 2 copies of Incandescent Flame Cannon Abhasal. Then we play 2 copies of Fortress of Annihilation. This is Freud's. And then the other one is just Freud's Maximum, which is the mobile Fortress of Destruction. So as you can probably guess, the grade 1 is the first one that you install, followed by the second one, which is Freud's, and then the last one is Freud's just on the ship, which is Freud's Maximum, which is actually really stupidly clever, because you can take a look at the design here, you realize they just copy and pasted the damn thing from on ground to just floating, which I've never noticed this till now actually. So yeah, I'm a bad Blitz player. So let's actually cover what each of them do. You notice we play 2 each because, as I mentioned in the right deck section, you generally want to make sure you have enough in your deck. So how do you install Abhasal is through the grade 1, the grade 1's effect. Abhasal, when operated, you get to choose one of your opponent's front row rear guards and retire it. If your opponent doesn't have any rear guards retire, you draw a card and discard one. I don't like it. I really don't. Because even Majesty Lord Blaster Blade just lets you draw for free. You don't have to discard. Whereas you're telling me that if I don't retire, I have to drop and draw? Yeah, it's a little bit tough. I would be honestly really happy with the Blitz deck if this was just a free draw. Considering the fact that you have to operate it means that you have to keep hopping through so many hurdles just to make sure that these weapons actually work. And I'm just not a fan. Really, I'm just not a fan of this. I really just wish it was a draw. But okay, you aren't going to use Abhasal for much longer because you automatically would just dispose Abhasal by right deck's effect and swap to Freud's. Freud's has very simple effects when operated. You either retire one of your opponent's front row rear guards or you choose your opponent's vanguard and minus 5,000. Yes, you heard me. It puts the vanguard at minus 5,000. So this is where Welstra gets his numbers from. Welstra himself will gain 5,000 power, but you can actually start deducting powers from your opponent's vanguard, which inadvertently is also a plus to the rest of your board, which is nice because you notice for the rest of this deck, or actually for the entire CEO deck, you don't actually gain numbers. So operating a weapon is the main way you actually get to dip your opponent's vanguard so that you can actually up your own power. So think of it a lot like Zeal, or think of it more like, Valios in the sense, but Valios gets the power lock too. But yeah, so generally speaking, just think about it that way. If you don't get to minus power, if your opponent does have a front rear guard, you do have to retire it first. If not, you do get to minus the power. But how do you actually move up to Freud's Maximum? How does Freud's actually lift off the ground? Is when your grade 3 Vanguard is placed on top of your grade 3 Vanguard, which means a persona, right? Basically, you can actually dispose Freud's by putting himself into the drop zone. So you move this to the drop zone, you get to search your deck or hand for Freud's Maximum and install it. If you installed it from your hand, you draw a card. Standard thing. Of course, it's Freud's Maximum. Freud's Maximum is a turn 4 card, and it's really nice, but maybe a bit too slow. When operating Freud's Maximum, your opponent just instantly gets minus 5k, and you retire one of your opponent's rear guards. So it's the strongest product, and as you can tell, it is the strongest product, which is nice. And if you're operating it as well, you get the option to Counterblast 1 and move one of your rear guards back to the hand. you get to Spirit Call Freud's Maximum as an attacking unit with 23,000 attack power, but at the end of the turn, he has to go back into the order zone. So for Counterblast 1 and a relatively fun way to recur one of your rear guards, you get an extra attack while your opponent's already minus power. That's really nice, but it did cost you Counterblast, and it is at, turn 4 onwards, and that's assuming you got a Persona right off. So Freud's Maximum, while is a great card, all in all, his support is kind of lacking and over-relies on him to really carry the deck, which sucks because for something as cool as Freud's Maximum, I really would have liked it if they gave more support, which is fine because just like Youthberg, there's plenty of potential for Freud's Maximum to actually get the support he needs in future sets. Now that the cards are all cheap because they're relatively just not appreciated, you can actually pick up a Blitz deck for cheap and then just enjoy the future support in the future, which will easily turn in better. If a deck like Eugene started out as complete trash in set 1, I can't see why a deck like Welstra can also enjoy such benefits in the future. Moving on to our Great Trees. Our Great Trees, we play 1 copy of Welstra for the right deck, as well as 3 extra copies for Persona Right, and then 2 copies of Blitz Top Sales Unlike. So it's really easy how to go through the rest of this deck. Welstra, we need it for the Persona Right, as you saw for Freudjets, and 1 for the right deck, because this is our deck. And then we play 2 copies of Unlike. Unlike skill is very simple. If your Vanguard has Welstra in its name, you simply retire it. This unit, you search your deck for either a grade 2 or 3 product order and add it to your hand. Now this matters more than you think because firstly it's a free way to thin your deck, but especially for Freud's Maximum, it matters a lot. I will get into that once you reach the grade 1 section. Moving on to our grade 2s. Our grade 2s, we obviously play 1 Uber for the right deck. We play 4 of the best boy, Blitz Security Wharton. Wharton is honestly one of the best cards in Blitz for a completely unironic reason, and Wharton was one of the cards that was really delayed in terms of its reveals, so I'm personally really stoked to see him. Lastly, we play 4 copies of Blitz Top Accountant Zorforio. Zorforio is Blitz much needed countercharge, was also delayed to the last minute for reveals, so okay, it's interesting that they saved the best for last. Uber is part of the right deck, as you probably guessed. Wharton's skill is, when placed on the Guardian Circle, as long as you have a product card, he gains 5,000 shield. So as long as you're just playing your game plan, you generally just have a 10k meter with 10k shield. And you may be wondering, wow, that really sucks. But Wharton is not only a king in terms of defense, he also can be used for early aggression because he's the easiest body to just throw on the board with literally no problems whatsoever. Zorforio kind of follows the same philosophy. Zorforio's skill is very simple. When you operate Freud's Maximum, which is the grade 3, you get to Soul Blast 1, and if you have not countercharged this turn, you get a countercharge 1. So while it's true that all the other costs in your deck are pretty expensive because of the amount of counterblast that the CEO deck takes, generally speaking, this list aims to cut down the amount of counterblast that you need, which is why cards like Wharton is so amazing because he's completely free, right? And the thing is that Zorforio really kind of balances it out with Freud's Maximum to ensure that your endgame is virtually guaranteed. You can just make sure that every time you need to play a counterblast for Freud's Maximum, you're paying a Soul Blast instead. And Soul is a resource that is not used in the CEO deck, which is great. So he's a 4-off in any version of the Blitz deck you intend to play, so you have to pick him up. Our grade 1 lineup consists of 3 copies of Starts, then we play 4 copies of Iskra, and then we also play 4 Perfect Guards, and then we also play 1 copy of Straza for the right deck. So as you can tell, it's still a really simple deck. Straza is still here for the right deck. We play the start deck Perfect Guards because this is meant to be a budget deck. If you can afford the better Perfect Guards, why not? I mentioned Iskra earlier. Iskra's effect is if you have not operated an order this turn, Color Blast 1 and rest this unit, you can choose one of the products and you can operate it. So as long as you keep an Iskra in the back row by picking 1 Counter Blast and resting her, you get to trigger whatever effect you have on hand, which is either for Apasal, Freudjets, or Freud's Maximum. All of which are great to have at either point in time. Generally speaking, you don't really want to operate more of Up so using it on Freud's or Freud's Maximum is really the best way to go, because you can actually, start to undermine your opponent's power, you can retire rear guards, and you can push for better numbers. Iskra is also the safest way to operate weapons because she's an act, and that matters a lot because her folio is on place, Welstra is on attack. So if you want something that can trigger during the battle phase, Iskra is the only one that can do it, which you can actually combo with Zorforio when you trigger Freud's Maximum, which means you can actually pay the cost of Iskra for free with Zorforio and counter charge to ensure that you actually have a color blast left to use to superior call Freud's Maximum when you attack with Welstra. So the lines of this deck are very simple. There is no hidden philosophy behind this deck. There's no secret tag. It's not like Hex or Orb where it's so diverse. It's very simplistic of a deck, no matter what rarity you plan to play the Blitz deck at, which is nice. And of course, it's Shards. Shards' ability is very reminiscent to Amelia in the Nirvana deck, which is probably why it's one of the very good meta threats at this point in time. But why are we playing Shards in this deck at 3? Shards is really meant to help you catch up when playing your going second matchup. So what he does is when your opponent's grade 3 or greater, you Color Blast 1, retire this unit and destroy the frights in your order zone. It has to be the grade 2. You can actually search your hand for Frights Maximum, and then you just install it. So yeah, you really minus 2, I would say. Yeah, you go minus 2, but you speed up your end game by ensuring you actually get Frights Maximum very early and very strong on the field. If you go first, Shards is useless, but more rather than not. Oh, but okay, technically speaking, it's not useless, because if you don't get a persona right, then you still use Shards regardless, which is why searching for Frights Maximum in the hand is important because of this guy. So basically speaking, Shards is one of the main lines of ensuring you will get your big Frights Maximum into play. So it is quite an important card, but he is a counter blast and he does minus you by quite a fair bit. So I would say you have to use him with great caution, because if you use him wrongly, or generally you just use him not thinking, then you will lose the game. You will straight up lose the game because of the net minus that you will go through because of this card. But if you actually time it right, or if you play him well, or even just call him out, literally just call him out early. If you're going first to use as early aggression, hey, that could win you the game instead. And then of course we move on to our triggers. We play 8 crit. We play the base crit because it's a budget deck. We play effect. We play normal heals because we can't afford counter heals, and you don't need counter heals. We play 3 draw. You still need draws in this deck and a base OT. So as you can tell, everything here is really just at the bare minimum, because we can't afford anything else, and frankly you don't need anything else. As long as you have the correct triggers of crits, heals, draws, you generally can't go wrong. And yeah, that actually wraps it up for the Blitz budget deck profile. It's very simple, it's very cheap, very effective, and very fun. I will tell you that right now. You will honestly really enjoy this deck if you just, you watch the anime, you like this deck, you tested it out, you like the aesthetic, you just enjoy things about this deck, or you find the guys hot, you find the girls hot, whatever it is, you like it, I would definitely recommend you to pick it up because of its price point. The price point is really the biggest point for building Welstra. Don't expect him to be competitive because he's the furthest thing from it. In fact, he's really just he's better than MLB, but he's not say Zorga levels either. He has his weaknesses, but I would say his biggest problem is definitely removal, in the sense that while he's removal deck himself, he will suffer very strongly because he cannot plus. A lot of his stuff just does negative 0 or if not a minus, as you have seen. And this is the same problem even for the high rarities. So generally speaking, as long as you don't find a control matchup, you're fine. But then again, the entire meta right now is control. So it's quite hard for Welstra, I will say. But in the future, it could be better. And frankly, that's enough considering the fact that you paid so little for this deck. It's a great entry point. It's cheaper than Heroes somehow, and it's nice. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.